I hate that I have to be the one to tell you, but your content sucks. You're trying to duplicate what everybody else is doing on social media. You're trying to follow trends, and you're trying to listen to every single Instagram guru that comes across your For You page. And that is a problem. That's a problem because I guarantee you're watching other people who are half as qualified as you, who are basically gurus in your space, get hundreds of thousands of views and crush it online. And those days are over because you, an actual expert, stumbled upon this video that is going to help you not only get trust, but that is going to help you retain your audience and actually grow your audience. So here's what I have for you. I'm going to give you guys some information from a course that I used to sell for like $3,000 to $5,000. I'm not here for any of that. I'm here to give away this information because this video alone has helped some of my clients do numbers like this, this, and this. And as my ticket back to the entrepreneurial community and the social media branding community, I'm giving it away. And if you all like this video, I'll be giving away much more. As you can tell by the title, we are talking about retention. Now, I have a video talking about retention graphs before this video, but in this one, I really want to deep dive into some actionable steps that you can take within your content to actually help the retention of the content in and of itself. So therefore, you can get more views and the LTV of your viewer can actually become longer, aka the lifetime value or the long-term value, whichever one, however you want to think of LTV of your video. So today, let's actually talk about retention and let's wrap it up with some things that I use, right? Because I only want to tell you guys about stuff that I practice, right? Because I want to be able to practice what I preach. And so wrap it up with some things that you can do. So retention. Retention is, AKA, oops, there we go. Hold on, wait a minute. There we go. I'm on the iPad today, y'all, so bear with me. AKA the ability, right? And I want to actually put that in there too, right? The ability to keep an audience watching from start to finish. And the key thing about that is start to finish, right? Because a lot of us, right, you may watch the videos that I talk about hooks, I talk about title hooks and title cards, and you might be able to get them to start watching. But if you don't get them, and if you don't have the ability and the retention knowledge to keep them watching from the start all the way to the end, which, excuse me, which is where you really need them to be, is at the end of your video. If you don't have that ability and that knowledge and you don't use the tactics to keep them watching from the start to the finish, you're pretty much hurting yourself in the long run. And the reason why that is because a lot of us have our call to actions at the end of our video. And so if the end of your video is where the least amount of people are, you're really hurting yourself, right? Because usually the call to actions is how we eat. And so with that being said, that makes me want to revisit the retention graph that I talked about in the previous video. And I'm just revisiting it just a short amount. And so I have 3 different versions of retention graphs here. And you can take a look at your retention graph by looking at the insights of each and every video. And what the retention graph is it shows you out of the people that watched your video, how many of them stayed at the start and how many of them stayed to the finish. Simple as that. And so I want to break it down very, very shortly for you so that I can give you some action steps to help it. So this very first retention graph is what a lot of you guys' retention graph looks like, which is where you get your people at the beginning and then they just drop off all the way to the very end. And at the very end of your video, you have nobody watching left, which means that your hook is bad, your lead is bad, your idea is bad, and everything else in regards to your video is bad. Next, I rate that one a 1 star. Next is the one where after you watch a couple of the videos inside of this course, you'll be able to help it, which is where, okay, cool, you got them to stay in the beginning. They watched a little bit to after the beginning, but your lead and your delivery, and you stop making the video interesting, right? So your lead is bad, your delivery is bad, and you stop making the video interesting. But a good thing is your idea and your hook is good. Cool, cool. Next, which is the last one, which is what I really want what I really want your retention graphs to start looking like, which is why I rated it 3 stars, which is where you pretty much almost have a even scale of people watching from the beginning to the middle to almost the end, right? People are going to drop off at the end regardless. And so nobody has a perfect retention graph, and except maybe Mr. Beast. And what a perfect retention graph looks like is this, where the audience stays pretty median throughout the entire video and they watch from the beginning to the very end. And the only how that happens is if every single aspect of your video is absolutely perfect. That has only happened to me 2 times within my entire content creating career. And I do not promote that behavior of trying to make every single video perfect, because I guarantee you will stress yourself out. Anyways, just wanted to revisit that so therefore you guys can get an idea of why using these tactics to have the ability to keep your audience watching from start to finish is very important. Cool, cool. Now, let's get into some actionable steps to approve. So here are 4 things that I actively use to this day in every single piece of my content that I'm not testing, that I'm actually trying to help perform. 4 things that I actually use to help the retention, because retention is something that you actively need to think about. And I'll actually put that here, so therefore you guys can actually see this. Actively, think about. So you need to actively be thinking about retention when you're creating your piece of content. And the reason you need to actively be thinking about retention, right? In the ideation process, you need to be thinking about retention. In the structure, right? In the scripting process, you need to be thinking about retention. When you're editing, when you're shooting, you need to be thinking about retention, because if you don't have retention and your retention graph looks like this, you won't make any money and you won't grow the audience that you actually want to grow. Cool, cool. Now let's get into the 5 things. So the first of the, let's get into these 4 things. The first thing that I use is structure. Now, you guys have seen the video by now. If you're watching this video, you've already seen the viral video format, and you've already heard me talk about the structure and what your video should look like in order to help it pretty much have better retention. But I want to go over it briefly, just in case you guys forgot. So first and foremost is the hook. You must have a good hook if you want a good piece of content, because if you don't get them to start watching in the first place, they won't watch at all. So you need a good hook. Then after the hook, you need a lead, aka something that actually complements your hook and keeps them watching. Usually here is where I start to practice number 2, but I'll go over that soon. So you have your hook, you have your lead. Right after there is you have the meat. Your meat and your potatoes, aka the actual information, the strategies, the tips, the tricks, the lists, the steps, the stories that you're actually telling within your piece of content. And then last but not least is you have the payoff, aka the solution, aka once your audience goes from here to here, they should have everything that you promised within the hook. And if they don't have everything you promised, everything goes to shit. Because next time they see a piece of content from you, they feel like they got clickbaited, and now they start resonating you, right? So now your brand, aka your assumptions between 2 things, or your synonymation, or however you say that, right? You don't want to become synonymous with not being able to keep the promise that you said within your hook. You don't want to become synonymous with that. You really don't. It's not a good thing. It's not a good feeling, right? And it hurts you in the long run. So that's that. Now comes the phrase, retention phrases and retention sentences. Now, if this is your first time watching this and you haven't been able to attend a live Q&A session yet, or live training yet within this community, sucks for you. You need to go. Anyways, I talk a lot about retention phrases. I do video breakdowns of myself, and in those video breakdowns, I'll talk about retention phrases and retention sentences. And what that is, as I said, I start practicing it here in the lead. What retention phrases and retention sentences are little things that you say and or do and or show within your piece of content that triggers a subconscious thought within your audience to have them keep watching. And so there are 3 ways that I practice this, and there are 3 ways that I would recommend you practicing it, because this is what I do. First is I play on time, aka I give timers and time frames. Now, usually if I'm playing on time, I usually do this when I'm in my lead, and then I solidify it in the payoff. What do I mean by that? Let me give you a couple examples. So if my hook is, let me show you guys how to bake a cake. Nope, excuse me. Let me show you guys how to use my grandma's recipe to bake a cake. Cool, that hooks somebody in. People may resonate with that because they love their grandma. Their grandma made good cakes. Excuse me. And they want to be able to make a cake like their grandma or like your grandma. Cool, you hook them in. They're watching your piece of content. Now comes the lead. The lead needs to be able to complement your hook. And so here's where I love to play on time. I love to play on time with this. And the how I do this is by saying, and the best part about it is it only takes 60 seconds. Oh my God, you just told me I can make my grandma's cake in 60 seconds? I'm watching. Simple as that. Play off of time. Another example, which is where you can merge the hook and the lead together, is by saying, here's how you do X, Y, and Z in X amount of time. You smash those 2 together. Now, how do you solidify that, right? Because you can tell somebody it takes 30 seconds, but people right? Human beings, we automatically start thinking of like the worst possible thing, the worst thing, and start doubting. So then people are like, you can't do this in 60 seconds. Good. Now I'm about to solidify this retention. Right now, I'm really about to make you stay and watch this video because now I'm about to play off of a timer. And so this is a tactic that I see not used enough, which is where number one, you give a time frame within your video. Within the first 10 seconds, you give a time frame in which you're going to give them what you promised in the hook. Oh, excuse me, I wasn't supposed to do that, but you give them what you promised inside the hook. You give them a time frame, and then you play off of a timer, which means as soon as you give them a time frame on the screen somewhere, because we are visual creatures as well, right? Men, women, human beings, we're visual creatures. And again, playing off of that 70% that you guys always hear me talk about, which is, if you've never heard me say this, over 70% of the people watching short form pieces of content online, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikToks, are watching with the sound off. And so being able to play into that and catering to that 70% puts a timer on the screen. This has to deal with editing. This is more of an editing thing, but put a timer on the screen. So if I tell you I'm going to teach you how to use ManyChat in 30 seconds, me saying 30 seconds is powerful. Yes, it gets you to watch, but me saying 30 seconds and at the same time, I have a 30-second timer in the top left of my screen, or I have a timer bar going across the entire video showing you the progress of the video. It's that much more powerful. Cool, cool. Next is foreshadow. And what I love about foreshadow is foreshadow you can do so subtly and it works so powerfully. So here's how I use foreshadow, and here is how you can use it too. So foreshadow, right? So we have our 4 different aspects, aka our hook, our lead, our meat, and our payoff. What foreshadowing is in the moment talking about something that is going to happen in the future subconsciously. And so I really like to use this heavy when I'm going from lead to meat, or if I'm going lead, or if I'm going meat to payoff. There's no point in really doing it from here to here because we have our own thing going on when it comes to here. Anyways, so Jaden, you're confusing me. I need you to give me an example. Good. I'll break it down for you first. When I say foreshadow, when it comes to retention in videos, the more and the better that you're able to tell somebody about the future of what they're about to watch, the more likely they will stay and watch that piece of content. I kind of said that jumble, so I'll say it better. So if I right now, right, if I hooked you in with the video, I gave a really good lead and I gave a time frame in which you are about to watch and achieve this piece of content. Excuse me. Hopefully you can see that. I gave a time frame in which you are about to get your payoff, right? Whatever I promised in the hook. While I'm giving you the meat and potatoes, while I'm giving you this, I want to constantly talk about the next step. Always be talking about the future. Always be talking about the next step and what they are about to get. And an easy way to do this is this example. And this example can work for any and every single industry, no matter what type of personal brand you have, this works. And I gave this example on my Monday call previously. Like I said, if you're not joining the calls, you suck. But I'll give this example again. So if I'm a dog walker, and in my video, I want to talk about the 3 steps to help you walk a dog better and easier, right? Step number 1 depends on however you clip the collar on the dog. This information is false, by the way. Don't follow this. If you got a dog, you might hurt the dog somehow. Anyway, first step may be, how you put the leash on the dog. Second step depends on how you leave the house. And the third step has to deal with how you're walking when you're outside. Cool beans. Once I get to the second step, human beings, right? And this isn't like nobody's fault at this point. This is just the way that it is. Once we get to the second step, the fingers start itching. That scroll finger start itching. No matter how good the information is, no matter how good the delivery is, that scroll finger start getting real itchy. And so what do? We foreshadow, because we can tell them what they're going to get in the future. And if we can make it sound like they're going to miss out if they don't watch it, it makes it that much better. Here's the exact tactic that I always use if I'm talking about foreshadowing, and that is the easier effect. So again, we're teaching somebody how to walk a dog properly or how to walk a dog better. Cool. First step depends on how you put the collar on. Second step depends on how you walk out the door. While I'm describing the second step, I'll say something like this. And this step is going to allow you to have a easier this step. AKA that this step being the third step, right? So let me break it down for you. Here. And then when you're walking out the door with the dog, make sure that you walk out first and the dog doesn't walk out first. So therefore you can assert your dominance. And when you assert your dominance, it makes it easier to do step number 3. Okay, cool. Now you just told me that number 2 is going to help me with number 3. And so therefore, I will be a dummy not to go and watch number 3 because you just told me that number 2, what I'm currently watching, what I'm currently taking in and practicing, is going to help me with number 3. So it's going to make number 3 easier for me, the easier effect. That's how I like to use foreshadowing. And if you can think of any ways, it's very hard for me to think right now because my brain is jumbling. But the goal is, right, if you have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, the goal is, and I'll switch up the colors here, to allow step 1, foreshadow step 2, to allow step 2 to foreshadow step 3, and to allow step 3 to foreshadow step 4. And the best way to do this is tension. Making your audience feel like if they don't go to the next step and if they don't keep watching, they are going to miss out on something. Cool? Cool. Last thing I use when it comes to retention phrases is in-time thoughts and real-time thoughts. I didn't want to mix it up with this and have you guys be confused, but I call it real-time thoughts or in-time thoughts, which means humans like who? People. People buy from who? People. People watch who? People. So if you can tell them, and I'm getting quiet while I'm reading this. I mean, I'll say it out loud. Tell them what they are thinking. Tell them what they're thinking. And if you can tell them what they're thinking before they're thinking it, the better. Jaden, what the hell are you talking about? Easy. Let's go all the way back to time frame. I'm going to show you guys how to bake a velvet cake in the next 30 seconds. Boom. When I say that, my 30-second timer pops on. I'm going to show you guys how to bake a cake in the next 30 seconds. Now, I know what you're thinking. You can't bake a cake in the next 30 seconds. Yes, you can if you use my grandma's recipe. Full circle moment. Now I have you watching for at least the next 30 seconds. You didn't catch that. Let me break it down. I'm going to teach you guys how to bake a red velvet cake in the next 30 seconds. We use time. Then we said, now I know what you're thinking, which we start using this. Now I know what you're thinking. You can't bake a cake in the next 30 seconds. In-time thoughts. Tell them what they are thinking. And the bonus points come when you can tell them what they're thinking before they start actually thinking it. Because when that happens, right, when you tell them what they're thinking, they feel like you automatically have a solution for them. They feel like this video is well thought out. They feel like this video is for them. Another example. If you are a dropshipper, right, and I have a dropshipping client and we talk about this all the time. Dropshipping now has a bad rep. As unfortunately as it is, right, the business model is still good, but it has a bad rep. And so we lean on that in our videos and we use this a lot. We use it a lot. And how we use it is we just tell the audience what they're thinking. So we may have the hook be an in-time thought or a real-time thought. Dropshipping is a scam. Dropshipping doesn't work anymore. Well, let me tell you a tactic that actually does allow dropshipping to work. Telling them their thoughts before they start thinking it. Right? If you are an interior designer, my room is too small. My room is too small and doesn't look spacious. Telling them what they are thinking before they actually start thinking it. My room is too small and my bed is too big for my room and it can't look spacious. Let me teach you how to rearrange your bed so therefore you can make your small room look bigger. Now I know what you're thinking. My bed is too small for my room. My bed is too big for my room, excuse me. Therefore, you're telling them their in-time, their real-time thoughts. And therefore, they're definitely going to watch the video because they feel like their video is designed for them. Cool, cool. That's how I do retention phrases. Next is 5. Now, you guys have heard me say this, but I am going to say it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Boom, 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 boom. These are timestamps of my video. So if I have a 30-second video, right, there's a 30-second short, 30-second reel, that means there are 5 seconds within my video. Cool, that's math. And if you lost all of a sudden, 30 divided by 5 is 6. Good. What 5 means, right, is my every 5 rule. So every 5 rule, which means that every 5 seconds, something new needs to happen. Now, what I'm not saying is you need to switch up. You need to be on the roof Next 5 seconds, you need to be in the dirt. You need to be behind a tree. I'm not saying that. Excuse me. But what I am saying is every 5 seconds, from this 5 seconds to this 5 seconds, something needs to change. From this to this, something needs to change. From this one to this one, something needs to change. And here are the things that I would just recommend changing. Number one is context. Switch up the B-roll, switch up the clip art that you're presenting, switch it up, allow it to go along with your video. Another one that I would recommend, titles. Add in some titles, take in some titles away, right? If I'm talking about a specific subject and I'm in an anchor point within my piece of content, I'll put a text over my head that talks about that anchor point, right? So if I'm like, yes, and then you need to be able to use a call to action within your video. While I'm saying that, I'll have a title over my head that gives maybe a sample call to action of what a call to action would look like. Cool? Cool. Next is captions. Now, depending on who you are, usually we all just use basic captions. There's nothing wrong with that sometimes. But a good and easy way to use the every 5 rule is switch up the captions, right? Maybe make this caption slide in. Maybe make this caption fade out. Maybe make this caption bigger than the rest for emphasis purposes. Switch it up every 5 seconds. And another thing that I love to use, angles. Angles. I love to switch up my angles within my video, right? I may be here 1 second, then I might just shift the camera to talk about something else. Or if you have the budget to have 2 cameras, or if you have a camera in your phone, I would set up both. And while editing, I would just switch back and forth between each, almost as if it's a mini podcast. Podcasts do this all the time, and they do this for a reason. Imagine how boring podcasts would be, right? And usually, hold on, I'll actually make this bigger. Usually, podcasts have 3 different angles. Usually podcasts have the angle where it's both of the people. Then they have the close-up angle where it's person 1. And then they have the close-up angle where it's person 2. And this is a table, by the way, y'all. This is a table, by the way. Hope you like my little art. They have this, so therefore, they can utilize the every 5 rule. Now, for podcasts, they switch it up. It's usually about every minute or every 2 minutes or every 5 minutes or so because it's a longer form video. But if we scale that down and utilize that for ourselves, switching up angles can easily be the only thing, the only version of every 5 that we use. Switch up the angles. Speak here. Soon as the subject switches or the anchor point switches in the video, talk here. Next, talk here. Switching it up every 5 seconds allows people's, aka our viewers, minds to reset and refocus on the actual context of the video. Not this context, the actual context and concept and information that we're talking about within our video. Cool. And last but not least is editing. Editing for every 5 is very essential because with editing, we can do all of this. Editing allows all of this to come together. Right? Whether you switch to some B-roll, whether you switch to a different format within your content, editing matters a lot because editing can be the make or break of your video. Depends on how the video was shot. So here's what I like to tell people about editing because a lot of people like to give power to editing. And then once this is, I'll wrap it home. A lot of people like to give power to editing. And the reason they like to give power to editing is because we've been trained to believe that no matter how bad the video is initially, it can be fixed in post. And if your editor tells you that, run fast. Run fast and run quick. Here's why. If you bake a cake, right, and you use the wrong ingredients and the cake is shitty, just because you put icing on the cake doesn't mean it's not a shitty cake. It's still a bad cake. The cake is still bad. The ingredients are still bad. Just because you put icing on it doesn't make it better. But if you have decent ingredients, right? AKA if the recording is decent, if you took the time to plan out angles, excuse me, prior, if you took the time to have the right structure within your content, editing is the good icing. Put that good icing on there. Make it a real good piece of cake. Okay, so just to review and just to go back, excuse me, just to review and just to go back, give me 1 second. Gotta connect. Uno momento. There we go. So, just to review very shortly, make myself bigger here. This, excuse me. There we go. This is bad. This is bad, but it's not as bad as the first one. This is good. How do we get there? by using these 4 things. Now, obviously, there are more things out there in the world, and I'll add on to this video when I discover those things and when I test them out, when I find out that they actually work. But for now, these are the 4 things. Structure. Utilizing a structure and actually having a structure to your content. A good way to actually implement a structure is just by scripting it correctly and shooting it correctly. We need your hook, we need your lead, we need your meat, and we need your payoff. Cool beans. Next is your phrase. Have retention phrases or retention sentences within your piece of content. The 3 types of retention phrases and sentences that I use is I either do foreshadowing, I give time, or I give in time / real time thoughts. Cool. Next, I use the every 5 rule. Every 5 seconds within my piece of content, something different is happening. Whether I have a new context image, or I switch up the format, or I have a title above my head that goes along with the anchor point in my video, or I switch up the way that my captions look. Maybe I have an effect on my captions, or I just switch up the angles in general, which here is where we gave the podcast example, to where podcasts usually have 3 angles. First angle is the one where it's both the speaker. So it's the speaker. Well, I would say I usually say the host. So it's usually the host, and then it's usually the guest. And then that's one angle. Then I usually switch it up, and then they have just the guest. And then they switch it up again, and then I have just the host. Cool. They switch up the angles, right? And I know it's spread out. It's not usually every 5 seconds because podcasts are usually a long form type of thing. But usually they spread this out throughout their piece of content. And if we scale that down and apply it to short form, every 5 seconds, honestly, 8 to 10 seconds at the very max. Every 8 to 10 seconds, something new is happening. And an easy way to do that is by switching up the angles or switching up the captions. Those are the first 2 that I recommend, because if you're recording a piece of content inside of your piece of content, right? If you're recording, I don't even know why I got my words all jumbled. If you're recording a piece of content inside of your car, right? It's very hard to switch up the angles unless you're like here with it and then you switch here. Or rather not just have it here, have the message, have the structure clear, right? Have a really good hook, have a really good delivery, and then just have the captions above your head or below you, and have those actually utilized as your every 5 rule. Simple as that. And then editing. Editing is a really good, easy way to help retention. Do not over edit. That's the last thing I'm gonna say. Do not over edit. Okay. I think a lot of us have a tendency to start over editing and start using editing to overcompensate for bad videos. We don't need that. Don't over edit, please. This one video, like the principles in this one video that you just watched for however long it is, allowed a lot of my clients to not only double and triple and 10x their brands on social media, but it allowed some of them to go viral. It allowed some of them to completely transform their businesses. Because once you figure out the principles to hook in an audience, you will never look back. And that's my gift to you. Let me know if this video was helpful. And if it was, comment down below a video you want me to make next. I got you. Come back and thank me later.